Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name's Thomas. I'm here to talk you through the main headlines of the day. Transfers are really hotting up now. You know, David Moyes mentioned last week that he expected maybe one or two through the door ahead of Roma. Over the past couple of days we've seen that really developing, and the main one from today really is that Keenan Dewsbury-Hall is now in the northwest for his medical. At the time of recording, just about 7 o'clock, we don't know if that medical's been completed yet. The Athletic mentioned earlier that it could go on until tomorrow, but that one looks pretty much wrapped up now. Looks like a pretty solid signing to me. A lot of the talk is kind of that Decore replacement. It looks like he's going to be playing a bit further forwards. It's hard to really gauge him, to be honest, because obviously he had that excellent season in the Championship, went to Chelsea, barely played, obviously did decently well in the Conference League, but because he was so young, kind of first time round at Leicester, when we saw him in the Premier League, it's quite hard to gauge. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's a really sensible signing. It's nice to see we've got to that stage of the season where Chelsea are trying to offload everyone. So do let us know your thoughts on this one down below. And then the story that's pretty much taken up all the headlines, despite the fact we are actually signing a player, is of course Tyler Dibling from Southampton. Now, I believe yesterday there were a couple of offers rejected, maybe even three. Southampton clearly holding out for a bigger fee. I believe we offered somewhere in the region of 40 million. Well, today Southampton came back with a counter offer, which is, I think, fairly unusual for this point. A lot of talk that, you know, there's a lot of kind of showmanship going on in the media, that we can't really trust everything that's being said. Southampton, as much as they say they're reluctant to sell him, clearly there's a price that they're after, and that price they've suggested is 45 million plus 5 million and quite achievable add-ons, and then a 25% sell-on clause, which I think is fairly excessive, to be honest. I know that kind of earlier in the year they quoted that they wanted 100 million from him. Obviously that's kind of daft money. They're not really in a position anymore to negotiate like that. The player clearly wants to be in the Premier League. He's clearly got a very high ceiling. You hear very knowledgeable people talk about the potential that he has, but 50 million plus a 25% sell-on clause seems a bit steep to me. Do let us know what you think about that. In my opinion, I don't think it'll come down to that. I don't think we will ever agree to 25% of the sell-on. Part of the reason why I think we're all kind of accepting that the fee's going to be a bit on the higher end is because there will be such a profit at the end of it. If we're realistic, the lad's 19. He's got a long career ahead of him, and potentially has 3 or 4 really good years at Bramley-Moore. Then goes on to play, I don't know, for a City a few years later, and that's the point where we'll really see that profit come in. And if we lose a quarter of that, it kind of defeats the point of paying such a high fee now. So do let us know what you think about that one. I think he's a pretty exciting player. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's following the profile that David Moyes and the rest of the staff are going for, kind of these younger players which are going to have much higher value later on, which is nice to see. Obviously the last time we had this much money to spend, we wasted it all effectively on ageing players with no selling value. I would like to see a few more kind of senior players come in, maybe later on using the loan market, which I wouldn't be shocked if we see that, because at the end of the day there's still a lot more signings that we need. We're not going to keep spending massive fees on players, because we just, as much as we can afford to spend this summer, everything that you hear is we're still not out of the woods fully with PSR, and I think the club will be a lot more conscious with that. So I think when it comes to actually signing those senior players, it'll be using up the loan spots, try and keep their wages down. And yeah, let us know what you think about Tyler Dibling. And a rumour then came out later on saying that potentially we are pivoting away from Tyler Dibling. As I said, there's a lot of showmanship going on in the media at the moment. We will say we're walking away, try and get their fee down, and I believe they will buckle eventually. The player clearly wants to leave. He wants to be in the Premier League. He's not going to want to hang around the Championship. But the club have claimed that they're stepping away. Obviously take that with a pinch of salt, and that name Jack Grealish has come back up again. I believe it was Alex Crook that mentioned that kind of we're back in for it. He's the player we're looking for as a potential alternative. I don't massively understand that. They definitely play on 2 different sides, and if there's one thing we don't need, it's another left winger. We need someone on the right. I think we saw in the United game, and we saw throughout pre-season, how weak that right-hand side really is. I'm not stressed about another left winger. Left back seems to be tied up. We've got Ty McNeil, I'd prefer to see centrally, but I guess he is a left winger. Asnu can play further forwards. We need to be addressing the right, and I don't see how Grealish could possibly be an alternative to a right winger in Tyler Dibling. But let us know what you think. I think To be honest, I think Grealish is one that's definitely going to end up getting done. I think City will be holding out for a permanent deal. They'll want to try and get a fee for him. They won't want to see him leave on loan, but they'll be willing to pay such a high percentage of his wages. He'll be on a massive wedge over at City, and I think this is one that'll develop later on. I think it's a fairly unbelievable tactic that we thought, you know what, we'll leave the massive value of 19-year-old Tyler Dibling, and we'll go to a Jack Grealish who, although he's still kind of in his prime, he's still in those excellent years, massive wages, he just hasn't done it for a couple of years. I think we'll end up with both. If I had a gun to my head, I think if we had to decide, we need more wingers. At the end of the day, we're massively light in that area of the field. And Jack Grealish, you know, let us know your thoughts. Main one, Dewsbury-Hall, though. Pretty much across the line now. I think it's a really exciting signing. I think it's good value as well. I think it's around 25-30 million. I think he'll be straight into the side. To be honest, I don't think we'll be waiting around to bring him in, which is good. It's kind of more of a profile of player that I think we need once we've kind of pivoted away from buying these really young players with good sell-on value. And then the final bit of news of the day is that Everton announced that Budweiser will become a founding partner of the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Yeah, whatever. Let us know what you think about that. Not my pint of choice, let's be honest. I think it's pretty weak, but yeah, that's the final bit of news. So let us know your thoughts on kind of everything that we discussed in the video today. You happy with Dewsbury-Hall? Are you willing to pay 50 million for Tyler Dibling with a 25% sell-on clause? Jack Grealish, high wages, doesn't play on the right-hand side. And Budweiser, do let us know what your thoughts are down below. We'll be back tomorrow with more news.